Welcome to episode 36 of 100 Years of Marine Corps Tankers, a station dedicated to honoring the legacy of Marine tankers and remembering the stories of what made the community special, told through the words of those Marines that towed the line. Joining the channel today is a Marine who has contributed some entertaining stories to the Marine Corps Vietnam Tankers Association website and is the author of a very successful book, The Iron Horse Marine, that does a wonderful job highlighting what it means to be a Marine Corps tanker in some of the toughest times. Welcome to the channel, Sergeant Lloyd Pappy Reynolds.
All right, thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you for coming on here today.
So, no problem.
Let's start in the beginning. You have a very interesting Marine Corps career, kind of in and out of some units. So let's start back in September of 1959. What made you want to join the Marine Corps and actually go through San Diego Recruit Depot?
Well, I had a number of how do you want to call it? In my neighborhood, there was a lot of veterans from World War II, and we had rented a room out in our house to one veteran. I've got some pictures of him on Saipan, and wow. my buddy's stepfather was in the Raiders. And these guys would tell their stories about, stuff like that. They wouldn't come forward with it, but you'd have to pry it out of them, and because I remember my buddy's stepfather telling me when he was in the Raiders that he said he was on a destroyer one time and the damn thing was so loaded with water, they were sitting on the edge with their feet hanging over and their boots were getting wet. Wow. He said that was down there near Bougainville. So I'm assuming when he said Bougainville that he was in 3rd Raider Battalion. Because I like a lot of history. I read history a lot. I've gone through history and I like to study history, particularly military history, and within that, particularly Marine Corps history.
Yes,
sir. So that was my inkling. And plus, when I was in high school, and I don't know how I got hooked up with these guys, but there was a couple of Marines, there was 3 Marines that had rented an apartment near us in Pasadena, and they were all from Camp Pendleton. Now, one of them I know was a kleptomaniac, had to be. So in this Marine Corps wisdom, they put him in supply. So when I was in high school, I had a complete uniform, 782 gear, the whole ball of wax.
Wow.
He didn't have a car, he didn't drive, so how we got from Camp Pendleton to Pasadena, a good 50 miles, I don't have a clue.
Right.
But he would show up with all kinds of stuff. I remember coming home from a movie late one night, and I got home to the house, and there on the front porch must have been maybe 10 cases of sea ration. These were Korean vintage.
Wow.
But the size of a shoebox, there was 3 meals in one box. And I remember Pat, I guess he got tired of waiting for me to come home from the movies, and my parents weren't home. He couldn't get in the house. So he had taken all of the cans out of the boxes and just stacked them up all over the front porch. He was just kind of a goofy guy.
Right.
But that I think led to me going into the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Among other things, plus I don't know, just a sense of adventure. I probably would have signed up for 20 years if they'd let me when I first went in. But I went through boot camp at MCRD in San Diego. Not a lot of fun. My senior drill instructor was a World War II veteran. This is 59. There were still a number of them hanging around. Right. Some of the drill instructors, when they're showing movies during our training and schooling down there, they were pointing out. I remember one picture they pointed out was a guy sleeping in a foxhole in Iwo Jima. And all the drill instructors yelled at there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, sound asleep as usual. They were ragging on one of the drill instructors. My drill instructor he was on Guadalcanal. He was called an acting staff sergeant. At that time, they were going through the rank transition and feeding Lance Corporal in.
Okay.
So he was an acting staff sergeant. And I remember he told us one time about in Australia, he was getting ready to go to the brig, but he had to wait till a prisoner came out of the brig so they could change uniforms, and he would go in and the prisoner became the chaser.
Wow.
He said there were so many people lined up to go to the brig, after Guadalcanal down there in Australia. So rumor has it, he was an acting staff sergeant then, and a buddy of mine who we went through boot camp on the buddy plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We still have it.
Yeah, Johnny told me later he saw our drill instructor, our senior drill instructor on Okinawa as a PFC.
Wow.
So he was still one of the old Corps type, but in and out,
Right.
up and down. Anyway, out of boot camp, went to ITR, Infantry Training Regiment, where we did all of the weapons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gotten orders. I'd made PFC in staging battalion when we were getting ready to go overseas. I was sent over to the 1st Marine Brigade in Hawaii in 1960. Over there, I was a grunt. I wound up in Charlie Company 2-4, 2nd Battalion, or 1-4, Charlie 1-4, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. I was an 0311 rifleman. I worked my way up to from rifleman to assistant BAR man, to the BAR man. And then somehow they found out I had taken typing in high school. They didn't know I'd flunked it. So they tried to make an office pinky out of me. They even sent me to admin school. So I was running the mailroom. And during my time running the mailroom, my mother was writing me letters, but she was screwing up the envelope by putting the FPO address on it, plus a civilian address. So these two were going back and forth, and I didn't get any mail for a couple of months. And I was writing her, say, hey, okay, if you're going to disown me, let me know.
Right.
Somehow she got a hold of the chaplain, and this caused an investigation in the mailing. So I was on the first sergeant's shit list.
So you were investigating yourself.
Yes, basically. They were investigating why I wasn't getting my mail. Well, in the meantime, I had taken all my 782 gear and thrown it in the mailroom. What the hell? Well, because they tried to make me an office fake. I found out later on from the clerk that replaced me, I set the company office a year behind in their IRC cards, their paperwork, because they didn't have computers then. So everything was done on typewriters. I had to do the unit diary and the mailroom. And during that process, we were switching over from everything paper to these IRC cards, little punch cards. Well, you had to do alpha, all the A letters in 1 month. The next month you did all the B letters, and they were submitted to headquarters Marine Corps. When First Sergeant finally threw me out of the office, he told me, that's how I got in machine guns. I came back off of Christmas leave, and he told me, he says, you set the company office a year behind in their paperwork. Get all your shit out of the mailroom. You're going to machine guns. And that's how I became a machine gunner.
That's not a bad trade.
No, I loved it. I loved machine guns better than the BAR. Although I like the BAR too. That was a great weapon. Then they came a shakeup. They had 2 battalions in the 4th Marines. Well, they decided in expansion they were going to form a 3rd battalion, which gave everybody a chance to get rid of your shitbirds or troublemakers. So off I went to Fox 2-4 as a machine gunner. One interesting story there in Fox, I was a Lance Corporal. They still didn't know what to do with us. We had gotten new guys in the company, and I wound up, I was a squad leader in machine guns. Anyway, when new guys came in, we took them on liberty, break them in sort of. Well, I took this PFC on liberty. We both got drunken skunks, got in fights downtown Honolulu, got locked up by the HASP.
Sounds like a Friday night.
Yeah, it was a good
or
night.
Tuesday.
He got burned real bad. We found out later it's because he knocked a cup of coffee out of the corpsman's hand and it burned him. Long story short on this, I wound up getting office hours out of it. The XO who gave me office hours was an old-time salty Mustanger.
Mm.
He said, getting drunk and disorderly and getting in a fight and getting locked up by the hasp, he said, I can expect of a young Marine. But you're a lance corporal. That makes you a corporal in training. You're not allowed to go on liberty with a PFC.
Wow.
Yet I couldn't go on liberty with a corporal either because I wasn't a corporal.
Right.
We had to stay in our own pay grade. So I got office hours out of that. During office hours, I mostly stood duty NCO or assistant duty NCO,
Mm-hmm.
which means I was up all night, but I got to sleep in. They made me company runner. And this is the interesting part. I still got some of the paperwork. I was a company runner, so I had to go over to battalion one day to pick up the guard mail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, being a curious guy, I was looking through the guard mail on the way back to the company office, and I spotted my name. I said, oh, therein were the charge sheets for me from being locked up by the hasp. Disrespect to an NCO, assault on an NCO, disrespect to an officer. I mean, I'd have gone to Leavenworth. So I said, I've already had office hours. They've already turned a report in, so I tore it all up and shit canned it. Never heard a word. Never heard a word about it. I mean, I'd already had 2 weeks EPD and restriction. No, and while I'm on restriction, I got a phone call one day. A buddy of mine from high school lived across the street from me, was in the Navy. His ship just pulled into Pearl Harbor. Well, I called him up. I was the first phone call the ship got. I made arrangements to meet him downtown Honolulu that night because I had to wait till taps to go over the fence because I was still signing in the logbook. So about 10:30, I went over the fence, caught a cab, went into Honolulu. Me and him had a great time in Honolulu. Made it back to base just in time for formation. We had morning formation in the parking lot at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
And then we had to march, the whole company marched to chow. You know, if you didn't want to eat, you left, but you had to march to the mess hall. You know, so as
you know, my generation of tanker has what we call Libo Risk. And I may have been identified, might still be identified as a Libo Risk. But I will say that you, sir, I think defined and created that term for us.
Could be.
you might be the oldest Libo Risk that I know.
Yeah, because I went on liberty with Joe downtown Honolulu. Just made it back in time to formation, and the guys were actually holding me up at that time because I was pretty south. They didn't check you coming aboard the base. Right. But you had to have a Liberty card to get off the base. Mm-hmm. So when I finally left Hawaii, I checked out on my Liberty card. I took it. Well, I still got it.
Nice. How did you get the tanks?
Okay, from Hawaii, I got sent back to Camp Pendleton, and I had orders to report to the 1st Marine Division. I had me and a buddy, Tom. Reported in the 1st Marine Division. This was in 1962, late 62. And reported, and we were both lance corporals. Corporal went up to the office. The corporal says, okay, so you guys are just grunts coming out of 2 years in Hawaii. He says, what'd you like to do? No, I almost shit myself because nobody ever asked me that before in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And I just turned around and said, I don't want to walk anymore. And so he says, I got openings in motor T and tanks. My buddy Tom says, hey, thanks. He didn't say thanks. He said, hey, thanks. Corporal says, okay, tanks, here you go. We both wound up in Bravo Company, 1st Tank Battalion. And each tank battalion at that time had their own tank school. Ours was at Las Flores. I don't know if you know where that is.
I sure do. I spent a couple years of my life there. I was the Alpha Company I&I.
Okay, yeah, Las Flores. It's a lot different now. I'll tell you that. I was down there a little while back.
Yes, sir.
And we went through tank school there. I came out first in tank school.
Okay.
Don't ask me how. Because they even
you're a Libo Risk. Tankers are Libo Risks.
This one was.
You finally found your niche.
It's more than a Libo Risk. I got to tell you this. During tank school, we were gone to the range, the machine gun range. They sent us through all kinds of stuff. We had a grease gun range.
Mm.
We had a coax range, all this stuff. And it was on a Friday night. So we moved all of our tanks up to the tank gunnery range. I forget the hill number. It's just off of Barcelona Road, up on the top of this mountain. We went up there, and luck of the draw, I drew guard duty on Saturday, which was from 8 o'clock in the morning Saturday till 8 o'clock in the morning Sunday. So I had a car at that time. I'd gotten married. I had a car, and we're up on top of this hill, and I took over the guard duty from the Friday night guard. Or was it Friday? I think it was, let's go with Saturday. So I'm not positive on this now. But what I am positive about, and I even wrote a story about it, was rabbit hunting. We were up on top of this hill, and it's cold. We were breaking up ammo boxes to build a fire. You know, during the day, Saturday, nothing happened. It was all quiet and smooth. Except I went to town. I took off and went to town, got a couple of cases of beer, came back, and we're on guard duty up on top of the guarding the tanks and all. We didn't know it, but we looked at, there were some Jeep trailers parked up there, and we were looking for old ammo crates to burn up and start a fire. Well, we found ammo crates, but they were full of ammo.
Oh, wow.
Who suggested it? I don't know. Probably stupid me. Because I think there was 4 of us plus a corpsman and a truck driver. Four or five of us, I forget how many. Corpsman and a truck driver. It was getting dark. I said, let's go shoot up some ammo. We're going to go get some rabbits. So we had the 6x. We each grabbed whatever weapon we felt like it. Grease gun, a 30 caliber, 1919 A40 coaxial machine gun. All the ammo we wanted, got in the truck, started driving around out there with the headlights, hoping to see rabbits.
Right.
And we shooting at rocks, shooting at anything. I don't know why nobody called it, you know. Tracers going every which way, all kinds of shit's happening. Well, one guy named Lopes, I remember Lopes for 2 reasons. One, they asked me to throw some questions on the final exam at tank school. So Lopes could make Lance Corporal because he was a PFC. I was already a Lance Coolie. So I threw 5 questions. Lopes still didn't make it. I still came out first. So tough on him. I give him a chance. Right. Anyway, he had this 30 caliber machine gun, and he was in the front of the side, the driver's seat, passenger seat. The windows were up because he was firing through the window. You know, the machine gun. Well, we decided to take a break, whatever, get out. On his way out, I don't know if you know how the 30 caliber worked. You didn't pull the trigger back, you lifted it up. Well, somehow getting out of the truck with this machine gun, he fires off about 3 or 4 rounds. There went the window of the truck. There went about 2 or 3 holes through the canvas top.
Oh, man.
And luckily, he didn't kill anybody.
Right.
The driver had a shit hemorrhage. So now what are we going to do? So let's go back up to the hill and figure this thing out. So we got up on the hill, and I turned my car around. The headlights were on the truck. The driver took out the window. He said, okay. He said, now what? I said, bury it. Bury it. So he went off and dug a hole and buried it. And we were taking wire brushes to the canvas top to fray all the holes in it. You know, so the driver comes back and says, now what? I said, look, when you go back Sunday and turn the truck in, tell them that you hit a tree limb, it broke the window, you took the window out so nobody would get cut on the glass, you put it on the back seat in the back of the 6x. Somehow it fell out. You don't know where in the hell it is. He got away with it. Not a word was said. Nobody had taken inventory on the ammo that was left over from the small bore rangers.
Wow.
I got relieved on Sunday morning, and I went home. Well, I said I was married then. I went home and sweated Sunday and Monday coming back. I said, oh, I'm going to jail. I knew I was going to jail. Not a word was said. Nobody knew a damn thing. You know, So we went on. Now we were firing a 90 millimeter, which was okay. Everything was going good. And then all of a sudden we got a call to ceasefire, ceasefire. What the hell is going on? We didn't know what was going on. Well, it turned out one of our rounds had ricocheted off something in the impact area, ricocheted up to Casey Springs.
Wow.
And there was a grunt unit up there doing maneuvers at Casey Springs. And this round happened to hit the rear end of a mule, one of their mules. Okay, how do you know? About 20 years later, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago now, I knew this full bird colonel, and I was down at his house talking to him. He was a grunt, I was a tanker. He told me about the time that he had his unit when he was a captain up at Casey Springs, and some tanker shot the rear end off his mule.
What are the chances?
What are the chances of that? I'm trying to remember his Don Robertson. That was his name. He had just retired from the Marine Corps, and I'm a model builder too, and he was a model builder. He used to paint miniatures. When he was at 8th and 9th, he was going to lock himself in his office and paint miniatures. So anyway, yeah, that's the story about that. Now I'm in First Tanks, and Stinky Davis was the company gunny. He was a character. Well, we were having class instructions at Las Pogus. All the Quonset huts we lived in there, Las Pogus. And our mess hall was at Las Flores, 7 miles.
Yes, it is.
And don't ask me how I know. I know it's 7 miles.
Yes, it is.
By car. How far it is walking, it's still 7 miles.
And there's hills there too.
Yeah.
Ocean breeze, but there's hills.
I walked the down by the riverbed, which was a dry river at that time. No, I'm in there getting class, and I just come from the grunts. When I was in the grunts, they had us dye all of our white T-shirts either brown or green. So I've got on a green T-shirt. And Gunner O.K. Martin, Master Sergeant O.K. Martin, Bull Martin, they called him because of his voice. You could hear him a mile away. We're coming out of class, and he yells at me, and Stinky's sitting right beside him. Now, Stinky's my platoon sergeant. Bull Martin says, "Where'd you get that T-shirt?" "It was issued to me." "We don't issue green T-shirts." I said, "No, but on the grunts, I had to dye it green." "Oh, go take it off." I said, okay. I went back to my wall locker in between breaks in the class, put on a green one. Now we're out there in the gun rack, we're cleaning machine guns, cleaning the 50 calibers. And Stinky Davis comes over to me. And he says, "Reynolds, stay away from Bull Martin." I said, okay. I said, "Who's Bull Martin?" He said, "The guy that told you to change that T-shirt." "Now, where in the hell did you get a brown T-shirt?" I said, "The same story. We had to dye our T-shirts either green or brown. That's what I've got." He "Get that thing off and go get a T-shirt, a white T-shirt on." Now, in my civilian attire, I happen to have a turtleneck white T-shirt. I put that on.
No, you didn't.
I didn't even have a white issue T-shirt. So we're out there cleaning guns.
And you got a turtleneck on.
And now here comes Stinky. "Where the hell did you get that turtleneck T?" I said, "Stinky, you told me I can't wear green, I can't wear brown, and the only white one I got is a turtleneck tee." He said, Stinky had a habit. He would take his cover off and throw it on the ground and called everybody a chicken fucker. That was his nickname. "You chicken fucker." He said, "I tell you what, tomorrow morning at 0800, you go to the armory and I want you to draw a 50 caliber machine gun." He said, "That will not leave your arms all day." Okay, now problem number one. We lived at Pogus. The mess hall was at Las Flores. We had to take a 6x from Flores to Pogus to go to chow 3 times a day.
7 miles.
And if you missed the truck, you didn't eat. A little bit of a problem here. I could see me getting on a 6x with a 50 caliber and trying to go through the chow line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a problem. So I skipped breakfast, morning chow. Now, we had a little sawed-off buck sergeant. He was an E4 sergeant, hadn't met E5 yet.
Mm.
We were doing, I looked at the training schedule. Okay, we got troop and stomp, drill in the morning. So I said, I'm not going to chow. We'll fall out for drill at 0800. That's right after chow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're out there in formation, and I got this 50 caliber up on my shoulder. Every time I do a turn one way or the other, I'm going to knock somebody's teeth out with this big barrel sticking out.
Oh, you had the barrel on too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he had the barrel on too. You know, so that's why I wouldn't go to chow, because I knew I couldn't get through the mess hall with the barrel sticking out and everything, and trying to hold a tray of food.
I was picturing the 50 without the barrel. The 50 with the barrel.
Oh no, that came a few minutes later. We're in formation, and we were doing back and forth, and I had this big barrel sticking out, so I had me in the left flank, you know, so I wouldn't knock anybody's teeth or eyes out. And Benelli calls us formation. He says, at ease. I said, Sergeant Benelli, I never got trained in the manual of arms with a 50 caliber machine gun to go at ease. And he says, Reynolds, at ease with that weapon. So I did. I hoisted it up. I picked it up, and I just dropped it.
Wow.
Let it go. It hit right on the solenoid. That went, I don't know, on 100 pieces. Stinky Davis is up in the company office steps looking out there. His hat comes off and goes across the string, and everybody's coming towards me. Stinky Davis, Benelli, and I said, Sergeant, I've never been formally instructed in manual arms with a 50 caliber machine gun. End of story. Stinky says, take the barrel off that thing, turn it in. I'll see you tomorrow. So I did. I turned it all in. Broken solenoid and all.
But your armor loved you.
I think they just screw on a new one.
Right.
Now I knew retribution was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So now, back then, Marine Corps didn't have any money. We were running around going bang, bang at each other.
Yeah,
you know, this kind of shit. They wouldn't let us drive our vehicles out to the tank park because they figured we'd steal gas for our cars. So we had to take the truck out. And if you didn't get the chow run truck, you missed it. So it only ran during chow time. Now I'm out at the tank park doing maintenance on the tanks and all of this stuff. I get a call, Reynolds, come to the maintenance office. Okay, I'll go to the maintenance office. Stinky Davis on the phone. Reynolds, get your ass into the CP. Can I wait for the chow run? No, I want you in here now. So you walk or hitchhike. Well, I walked 7 miles into the company office. Go report to Stinky in the company office. He said, Reynolds, you smoke, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, give me a cigarette. I give him a cigarette. He said, get your ass back to the tank park. Huh? He said, get your ass back to the tank park. Wow. 7 miles, I walk again. So now I'm out at the tank park. The afternoon comes. I get another phone call.
I can see.
Yes, Goody, what do you need? Get your ass back into the company office now. No waiting on any truck. 7 miles in to see him again. I go to the company office. Says, what do you need now, Gunny? He says, you gave me a cigarette this morning, didn't you? I said, yes. He said, you son of a bitch, you didn't give me a light. Give me a light. I give him a light. I give him a light. He said, get your ass back to the tank park. 4 times that day, I walked that 7 miles. Wow. I knew retribution was coming, and it did.
Right?
It did, yeah.
That is incredible.
That's true story.
Nowadays, that's hazing, and everyone get hung, you know.
Oh yeah,
hung
you
up
can't do that today.
Yeah, that's definition of hazing.
Stinky even got office hours. We were having a beer party, and a lieutenant come out after the beer party, and half of us were drunk, you know. And he said, "Police up the area." And Stinky said, "Lieutenant, we can do this tomorrow." Lieutenant said, no, police it up now. I turned around and the guys were drunk, and Stinky started saying, all right, troops. And there's two guys in the back rank running out their mouths.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I said, pay attention. They still jabbering. They turned out to be office pinkies.
Mm.
Sneaky broke ranks, walked back there and banged their heads together. Just like that. One of them knocked out one of them. That was it. They turned him in. Mm. Stinky wound up getting office hours for hitting enlisted guys. Mm. He got restricted to the barracks. Now at Pogus at that time, we had our Quonset huts. We had not a mess hall, a PX, a small PX, and up on the hill was the Quonset huts for staff quarters.
Okay.
So we had to move into the staff quarters for 2 weeks. Hmm. It wasn't long before the staff were complaining because Stinky's wife, Mama Bear, moved in with him.
In the staff quarters?
Into the staff quarters.
All right. That's an interesting move.
And she said, he may be on restriction, but nobody's cutting me off. That's what she, now to get a hint about Stinky, I'm trying to remember his name now. He just died. Not Stinky David. In the book, his name is he called him Rosie because he didn't want to get sued. Okay. Gunner Moore. Oh, I'm trying to remember Moore. He wrote a series of books, Inside Out, brown side out, green side out, run around, scream and shout. The Dunk's Almanac. He's named Duncan Moore.
Okay.
He wrote a series of books, and in the book, he knew Stinky real well, but in the book, because he didn't want to get sued, he called him Rosie. Mm. So there's some stories in there about Rosie in some of those books. That was the Gunner Moore. When he was a warrant officer, he retired as a major, but when he was a warrant officer, he had OD one day, and I wound up being supernumerary. Mm. Well, a couple of days before, I had a friend of mine locked up for attempted murder. But the morning, I was making up the gunner's bed because we're getting ready to be relieved. He's still on duty. And this guy named Tessum come into the OD shack, drunker than a skunk, running his mouth off at Gunner Moore, Warrant Officer Moore at the time. So Moore's sitting at his desk. There's a desk in there, and I was in front of the desk. I just got finished making up his rack. And this guy, Tessum, started running his mouth. So Gunner says, Reynolds, apprehend that man. I don't know what the hell it meant, apprehend him. I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, Tessum, we all knew Tessum. I said, Tessum, you're under arrest. Well, he took his left arm and smacked my right arm, off his shoulder. And when he did, he hit it hard enough, and my arm went back and hit the phone on the gunner's desk. So I just grabbed the phone and hit Tessum with it. He went down like a rock. Gunner Moore came right over the desk and grabbed me. He says, I said, apprehend him, not kill him. Anyway, he called the officer. They locked him up that day.
Wow.
I didn't get nothing. Out of it, man. He had a lump on his head. But that was it. And years later at a tankers reunion, Moore was there. And we got to talking, and I said, you remember Tessum? He says, yeah. I thought you were going to kill him. Moore died just a couple of years ago, but may he
rest.
He was a character. Okay, now we're in first tanks, and then time came for me to get out. I thought about shipping over. I almost did. But I think about 2 or 3 days before I was due to get out, we were on a police detail up in the hills, walking around, picking up brass, picking up comm wire, picking up all kinds, whatever's laying around, we're picking it up and policing it up. And here comes the company commander, come up there with a Jeep and a trailer full of cans of ice water. And he looked at me and says, well, Reynolds, he says, you thinking of shipping over? I said, not now. I said, up on this hill? And I said, plus what happened to me the other day? He tore up my corporal's warrant.
Mm.
I forgot about that. He tore up my corporal's warrant. I was a tank commander, but I was in the process of checking out. When they did something out there, they elevated the gun and the comm bag. I don't know if you still have what they call a comm bag. It had all the spare antennas in it. Those radios still had tubes in them then.
Mm.
So this had a box full of spare tubes. And well, it was on the ready rack under the gun. They elevated the gun and crushed the comm bag.
Mm.
So I was still signed out for the tank. So I got blamed for it. So the skipper tore up my corporal's warrant. I never got promoted to corporal. He tore it up. So, I told him, I said, you can take all that ice water and shove it up your ass. I'm getting out tomorrow. So that was when I got out.
Okay.
So I'm out.
Yeah.
I got out and wound up getting a divorce. Moved to Louisiana. Ended up going to Louisiana because one of my buddies was machine gunners when we were both in Charlie 1-4.
Okay.
He was the gunner, I was the A gunner, and we were the hottest team in the battalion.
Mm.
We were the hottest team in the battalion. So I went down to see him in Louisiana. Well, I had gotten a job as a welder for a while before I got a divorce, so I knew a little bit about welding, not much, but enough to stick two pieces of metal together. Mm. I moved on down to Louisiana, got a job as a welder offshore. We did that for about 2 years. Mm. Got drunk one night, picked a chainsaw up and out of the back of somebody's pickup truck because I was going to cut down the offending tree that ran out in the road in front of me. Huh. Wound up getting locked up, went before the judge. I knew the recruiter down in Louisiana. We'd go drinking together. Marines attract each other like magnets wherever we go.
Right.
So told the judge that, if you turn me loose, I was in jail for 2 days. I had to get bailed out of jail. That I'm going to go back to California, see my daughter, and re-enlist in the Marine Corps. And he says, be out of the state by midnight. I was.
Wow.
Just like that. I was gone. Mm-hmm. I did come back to California. Vietnam was just starting to heat up then. This was 65. The Marines had just landed. And I'm watching this shit on TV, and I said, I'm going back in. Mm-hmm. I went down and re-enlisted. We got orders to go to tanks. So I went. Now, funny thing about that is I'd been out 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I figured, hey, they owe me new uniforms.
Right.
I go back in, I go down to staging battalion. I don't have a uniform one. Well, I did, but I didn't bring any with me. Right. I'm trying to be smart, see? Mm-hmm. I'm going to get all new gear. Mm-hmm. So I got cowboy boots. I get down there, but they put me on mess duty. Now I got a set of whites and cowboy boots. And every day I'm going to the office to find out if I can get orders to get uniforms. Mm-hmm. They keep telling me they don't have uniforms. Mm-hmm. Don't have them. One day I'm going in there and this salty old gunny, come here, Marine. Me? He said, yeah, you. I go over there and said, what you need, gunny? He said, who authorized you to wear cowboy boots? I said, well, throughout history, the 4th Marines were the China Marines, and they had horses, and I was in the 4th Marines, so I'm wearing my cowboy boots.
Excellent answer.
But I don't have a horse. Boy, he went high and to the right. He went high. What are you waiting on? How come you're here? And I told him my sad story. I re-enlisted. I need uniforms to go to Vietnam. Yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So he's taking me. He said, let's go. We're going over to supply. Well, he got me issued the leather combat boots, 2 or 3 sets of dungarees, what I was supposed to have. Mm-hmm. And that was it. No khakis, no blues, no greens, no nothing, just enough to get me to Vietnam, which came back to haunt me a lot later coming home. Mm-hmm. This is in December. The uniform today is greens. Well, I don't have greens. All I got is my dungarees. And now combat boots. Mm-hmm. So now I'm on a list to go to Vietnam. So we go through all of the staging rigmarole, combat town, throwing grenades and all of this stuff, waiting for a ship. Now, almost every other day we had liberty. So, and I got my car, so I'm driving home to see my parents. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Mm.
My father said, this went on for damn near a month. He said, when are you going to go? So anyway, we finally went, and I think we were almost the last ship to go over. I'd have to look up the name of the ship, but we went over to Okinawa first.
Okay.
We went to White Beach, and we had base Liberty. Well, on the way over, I run into some other people that I knew from somewhere or another, and me and this corporal had a bullet hole right through the middle of his hand. I said, how'd you get that? He said, on his first tour, he was going like this. They hit him right in the hand. I said, you know, a couple inches over there, you got it between your running lights. He said, yeah, I know that now. Mm-hmm. But anyway, me and him decided we're going to take Liberty, go to Kin Village. So we took, well, I had khakis. I did have khakis, or I borrowed them. But I remember we took some khakis and rolled them up inside our field jacket under our waist. Went off, got a Scotia cab, went to Ville, changed into khakis, had our good time, came back. Now, if we come back, the base is deserted. I mean, there ain't a soul in sight. And here's Dustin. We see the ship slowly starting to move. And we're going down that gangplank. We're going like hell. We get down, we had to jump almost 10 feet to the ship.
Wow.
It was gone. You know, and we jumped, and as soon as we hit the beach, or hit the ship, there was a sergeant there that knew me from staging battalion. And he said, did you find anybody? I said, no. And the lieutenant says, who are these people? He said, oh, this is my working party. I sent down to see if there's any strays laying on the beach. Okay. And then he said to me, he said, get to the quarters quick. So we split. Now going down there, we're looking around, and we seen more, it looked like a hospital ship. I mean, guys, all bandaged up, all splinted, bandaged, taped up, everything. What the hell happened? Well, there was some redneck on there from Ontos's. And he was a true redneck, and he caused a race riot aboard the beach. They had entertaining the troops on base Liberty. Right. Well, he caused a race riot down there, and I mean, it was a bloody race riot. I'm glad I missed it. And half the troops were casualties going to Vietnam. I don't know what happened to him. I remember he was a redheaded guy, Lance Corporal, and a pure redneck. And he caused all this ruckus going to Vietnam. Well, you're going to Vietnam, you're nervous anyway. Right. You know, you're going to combat. Tensions are high, nerves are strung tight, and here comes some redneck starting all of this shit. Yeah. So anyway, we get down to Vietnam. We unloaded and we're in Mike boats going ashore. And I'm looking around for a weapon. I didn't even have a can open or anything. You know, because we're going up, I guess it's the Perfume River there in Da Nang. And you could see machine gun bunkers on the banks and sandbags and all that. And we didn't have nothing. I mean, not even a can opener. Wow. And we get up there and we went through like a staging area, got off, we went in these big ass tents, and it was hot. And this is December. So I spent two Christmases and 2 New Year's over there. Just the timing was just right. Because I think after that, everybody flew over. I don't think there was any more ships. I'm not sure, but I don't think there was. Anyway, wound up going to 3rd Tanks. Yeah, we got sorted out, wound up 3rd Tanks. We had battalion briefing. Well, in the big tent we were in there about battalion briefing. But here comes this guy, and I don't know, hey, English. Gunnery Sergeant English. He was a buck sergeant when I knew him in 1st Tanks. And he looked at me, I'm a PFC now. He said, what the hell happened to you, Reynolds? I said, I got out. He said, I stayed in. He said, you should have too. He says, you're back in this lash up again, huh? I said, yeah. I said, well, I hope we're in the same company. Well, he went to Alpha Company. I went to Bravo Company. Okay. In Bravo Company, being as how I had broken time, you know, and guys that had stayed in are now staff NCOs. Right. And I finally picked up Lance Corporal again pretty quick after that. But I would run into these guys that I know, and they all kept giving me the fish eye. What the hell did you do?
Mm.
You know, because I'm still a Lance Cooley.
Mm.
Now we're in Bravo Company, uh, and the tank commanders come around and said, "Who knows how to drive?" Well, I said, "Is it any different than the A2s? This for M48 A3, and I was
Mm.
teased on the A1s and A2s.
Okay.
Never seen a 40 A3.
Mm-hmm.
Which the big difference was the diesel engine, a few other, uh, the range finders were different, the ballistic computers were different, engine was totally different.
Mm.
But other than that, it was okay. The driving was better because in the A1s or A2s, we had a little itty bitty steering wheel and the gear shift was behind it. You had
Mm.
to reach around behind this little steering wheel, push a button, and bicycle grip it to shift gears.
Mm.
I know I threw one in the reverse by accident one day,
Mm.
and that was no fun. Almost killed a guy. Anyways, we had a nice big steering wheel, a gear shift on the floor, so I knew how to drive it. So I wound up. They gave all the new guys. There was actually 3 of us that came over in the ship together, 3 or 4 of us, and they tested us all. And they picked me. You're the driver. You know how to move this thing.
Mm.
The other guys had been through tank school, the new tank school, so they knew how to do it too. But
Mm-hmm.
I had more experiences, so I became the driver. Now, Bravo Company, 1st Platoon Bravo Company, we were sent out to Hill 55, and we stayed on Hill 55 for a while. A number of things happened there, but I can't remember everything that happened. Uh, then we went out to Fulak 6, or Anwa and Fulak 6, which are all 1st Division areas,
Okay.
which we didn't know at the time. We went out there. So we were out at Anwa, and we'd run convoys from Fulak 6 to Anwa. Well, on one of these convoys, one of my first combat, we're going down the road, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but something went off, and I had to pull off the road.
Mm.
And I remember a low boy going by beside us on the road, and it had a bunch of steel beams on it. And there was what I remember is looking over there, and there was some grunt had a little Vietnamese kid, and he's holding him down, pushing his head down, and he's firing his M60 over top of the steel beams as they went by us.
Mm.
You know, I said, I don't know what the hell he's doing over there.
Right.
And then a truck come by, and it turned out to be our truck. And again, here comes somebody I know, Buddha Clark. I knew him from First Tank. Name was Buddha because he looked like Buddha. He was our maintenance chief at that time. He's the one that got the monkey, Chico. But that's
I saw
another.
pictures of Chico.
Yeah. Buddha Clark is the one that got him. I heard Buddha Clark was in a truck when a truck hit a mine and blew his legs right up in him.
Mm.
No, that's a rumor. I don't know for sure, but that was the only time I saw him. But at First Tanks, me and Buddha were friends, and we would both history buffs. And at lunchtime down there on the tank ramp, his wife would make sandwiches for both of us. But I'd have a bottle of Akadama wine. And so we'd sit out there in the tank park and we'd eat sandwiches and drink Akadama wine during lunchtime and talk about history. And I remember Buddha Clark threw a mailbag over in the tank, a bright red mailbag, and he looked over and he says, Reynolds, is that you? I said, yeah, how you doing, Buddha? He says, you know, these some bitches don't wear red suits and walk in straight lines. Reference to the VC, you know, and what we had been talking about. And I says, I got your number, you know, and then he left. I never saw him again. Never saw him again. So I don't know what happened, if that's true or not, about him getting blown up on a truck. And for some reason, when I first got there, I used to lock my hatch down when we get in combat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I gave that up as a bad habit later on. But I remember we got back on the road. We were going into Anwa, and we stopped and started firing off to the left. And I remember now I had the hatch down, and I'm looking up my little periscope. And to me at the time, it was funny. There was a sergeant, redheaded sergeant, had a big droopy red mustache. you know, and he stood up and he's got a Thompson and he started bang, 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 bang. Next thing I know, he's up in the air and down flat. And he comes up and he landed face first in the shell hole full of mud, you know, and his mustache is all halfway over his face and everything. And he's shaking his head like a dog. I don't know whatever happened to him then, but somehow my pigtail from the comm helmet came loose.
Mm.
And I'm sitting out there and I don't know what's going on, you know, and I know there'd been fire and I could hear the pings hitting the tank.
Mm.
And I'm just sitting there. I didn't know my comm helmet had gone out.
Mm.
And next thing I know, Bud Coyle, one of the guys on the crew, was tapping on my vision block. So I cracked the hatch. He said, Pappy, hook up your helmet. I hooked up my helmet.
Mm.
And I could hear it coming. But back on the road, we were going into Elmois. So we went into Elmois. We used to make a run from Pulauk 6 to Elmois at 3 o'clock every day.
Mm.
No problem. Why do you do it on time? I don't know. The CO said 3 o'clock we make our run, our mail run. Knew this. They have watches. They can see you.
Right.
But we're going in there one day into Amwa. I forget how many miles it is. I got a map of it in my book, how far it is, Liberty Road. We go in there. We're not in there 15 minutes picking up the mail and whatever, and we start heading back. Now we're coming back down the same road, and I see what I've always described as an upside down frying pan on the road, a mound of dirt with a handle going off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember yelling, mine, and I put my foot on the brakes and I hit the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we surmised later what happened was the dirt being thrown out in front of the tank. We were over the mine when he set it off right in front of me.
Mm.
Well, maybe a foot or two in front of the tank. Well, it knocked me out for a minute or so because I went out long because when I woke up, the dirt was still coming down.
Okay.
2 of the grunts on the tank got light wounds.
Mm.
My glasses were gone. My helmet was gone. I'm pissed. And so stupid because we were brand new. We hadn't been in country maybe a month. So we were still stupid.
Right.
You know, the tank commander and some of the other people should not have been. But we stopped right there. The grunts got off the tank. I got out of the tank.
Mm.
Could see nothing around except one BC farmer out there dressed in white.
Mm.
Now my glasses I hadn't found yet. So and the grunts still had the M14s, M14 rifles. So I think they were actually the M1A1 or M14. There's an argument over what they were. And I asked the grunt, I said, give me your rifle. I'm going to shoot that son of a bitch. Now, without my glasses, I probably would have missed him anyway. But I picked up the rifle. I aimed in on him. I know I aimed in on him as best I could. And I squeezed the trigger. And it went click. I said, what the hell's the matter with your rifle? He said, nothing. It works. We took the round. The round had a dent in it, in the primer, but it didn't go off.
Wow.
Didn't go off. Probably saved me a court martial if I'd have fired it and hit this guy. So anyway, now digging around the dirt, I found my glasses, got my helmet. We're ready to go. We're heading back to Pulauk 6, which get to Pulauk 6, it's up on a hill, and we had to go up a steep hill to get there. We go up there, and I got no brakes. No brakes at all. But I managed to stop the tank because coming up to the top of the hill, I just laid off the gas and it stopped.
Okay.
Sergeant Gibson was our section leader down. Fuck Sergeant. Glasses, all that shit. We got a call to go back. The grunts had some prisoners they wanted us to pick up. So I told Gibson, I said, I got no brakes. He said, oh, you're just scared, Pat, because of that mine. I said, no, I got no brakes. He said, follow me. We're going down the road. I mean, we're going hell bent for leather, flat out. Probably about 30 miles an hour. Coming up around a curve, you could see a bunch of trees and then the road curved around it. Tank went in front of me, went around, Gibson went around. I come up around behind him and here he was parked right there. Oh. All I did was slam it into neutral and turn the wheel, did a neutral steer, and I skidded sideways up with probably without a foot of the back end of his. I looked up and he's up in the turret and his eyes are this big through the goggles, you know. I said, I told you I got no brakes, you know, I flipped it on. I got no brakes. Well, later on when we got back and I found out what had happened was I dug all the dirt out of there, and an inspection plate had fallen loose and it got down and wedged between the brake linkage. As
Okay.
soon as that plate came up, I had brakes again, but it had jammed my brakes for 2 or 3 hours.
Mm.
You know, uh, but anyway, we stayed there. We did a lot of damage there. We had a lot of kills in that area. We got up on one hill that was so steep. It was a large finger coming down, and we zigzagged the tank back and forth sideways, leaning over like this, going back and forth
Mm.
to get it up on this ridge. But once we got up on that ridge, oh shit, we could see for miles.
Mm.
And we were getting shots. We could watch BC with our 10 power scope. We could watch people out there, and we started ranging in on them.
Mm.
And we got, I think, 102 kills up there, something
Wow.
like that. We got a whole ship pot full up there. And finally they had us come down because we were firing into Gono Island, if you ever know where that is.
Okay.
You look that up, Gono Island. It wasn't really an island except during the monsoon when the rivers filled up. But it was a VC haven. It was their R&R center.
Mm.
Basically, a lot of shit happened in there. But we got a lot of kills up there. Well, it turned out we were detached. We didn't realize it at the time, but Bravo Company had moved up north with the 3rd Division.
Okay.
We were separated and we were attached to the 1st Division. So nobody came out to relieve us, or even our mail was getting screwed up for a while. Anyway, we got orders to go back to Hill 55. On the way back there, I hit a mine, knocked off the right rear road wheels.
Mm.
And there was shit hanging out. C4 is a wonderful thing for undoing nuts and bolts and stuff. Lieutenant Rivera was our platoon leader then, and we put some C4 around her to blow off the road wheel arms and some other stuff that was hanging loose, and it didn't work. Add some more. You didn't put enough in there. Okay, Lieutenant. Well, we blew enough stuff off. They had to send a retriever out to tow us in, and wound up warping the hull so the tank was surveyed.
Mm.
So we got back to Hill 55, which I think was battalion headquarters then for 1st Tank Battalion. We picked up a new tank there, and something I don't remember, although other people tell me about it. I do not remember moving north.
Mm.
Ron Shuppy's got pictures of me ground guiding the tank, either on or off the Mike boats. 3 days or total blank. I don't have a clue. I remember leaving, and I remember arriving. In between, I don't remember that boat ride at all. Either I was so seasick I was gone, or I slept through the whole thing. I don't have a clue. No memory at all. Although there are pictures of me during that time frame.
Right.
Well, we got up to Dong Ha, and guy yells at me, says, "Hey, Reynolds, is that you?" Another guy from 1st Tanks. He was a corporal when I knew him. His name was Reed. He says, "I'm your new platoon sergeant." Oh, okay. Well, Sam Kaliki was the old platoon sergeant. He had gone home. He was on his 2nd tour and made that. And I talking to Reed for a bit. Now, he was a corporal at 1st Tanks, a real sharp dude. I figured he was going to be a lifer. I knew I wasn't at that time. I was going to be, not unless I went to jail. So he was our platoon sergeant, and we're getting ready for an operation called Hickory. A big, and it was the first full-fledged operation. And I did a lot of research on Hickory because of some of the stuff that had happened. All the tanks were listed as Alpha Company. Well, it was actually Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie Company involved. But they were all either not AdCon, AdCon, something like. They were all attached to under the command of Alpha Company commander.
Okay.
Every tank on Hickory, I think there was all 3 companies were on.
Would it be TACON?
Say again?
TACON, tactical control?
Tactical control, TACCON, yeah.
Okay.
So when you go looking it up on the books to find out what happened, they're all listed as Alpha Company tanks. I've even talked to guys say, "Oh no, those were Alpha Company tanks." But I said, "No, that was my tank." in one book, Operation Hickory. I talked to the guy who wrote it, and he's a professor out here at one of these colleges now. Uh, anyway, the first day out, we're going down this road. I was driving for the platoon leader, Lieutenant Rivera. So I was lead tank, and we had big bamboo tree lines on both sides of the road. The road was just a little bit wider than the tank, not by much, maybe a couple of feet. And these grunts were walking in front of us. And I heard one shot, and a grunt in front of me did a cartwheel like that. And that was the opening shot of a regimental sized ambush on us. Oh, Jesus. I didn't know what to do, and the trees were so close we couldn't traverse the turret. And I remember Lieutenant Rivera telling me, Reynolds, hard right, hard right, hard right. And I did a hard right, and we broke through the tree line and went out in this open field. I don't know how far we went, but by that time I had learned, I had gotten afraid of being burned in a tank. So I never completely closed the hatch. I'd swing it over top of me, I'd duck down, but I wouldn't lock the hatch in case I had to get out. And that's the way the hatch was at this time. Because once that shot went off, and it was just a constant, talk about the rifle range. No way. Well, you've been there. You know what it's like.
Sure.
So we're out in the field, and we're firing, and these red things are coming at us. Rivera said later on, he says, I thought they were shooting flares at us. Well, they were RPGs coming at us. And machine gun fire. They clipped. Lieutenant Rivera got hit on the right arm down here and went in the clamshell hatch on a 48. It's the hatch. He had his hatch up and he's out. Spun around and hit him on the other arm and went down and hit the gun shield between the gun and the gunner.
Wow.
And went someplace. They clipped one of our antennas off. And I don't know how long we were out there in that field, but I went through 2 packs of Pall Malls at the time because all the cigarette butts were down there on the escape hatch. So we're out there and I'm watching him, and I could see this one, his shovel's coming up and he's throwing dirt. He's digging a hole and he's behind a log. And we couldn't depress and close down enough to get him. We finally did. But I could see his arms coming up and his shovel, and I was yelling at the guys. The gun was so hot they were pissing on the 30, you know, and pouring our canteens of water on it. I don't know how much ammo we expended. We fired canister. We didn't have flechette rounds then, just a canister, the big shotgun shells. So we must have been out there for a couple of hours.
Wow. You
know, in this one fight, just having at it. The fast movers came in. They were dropping napalm close enough I could feel the heat buttoned up in the driver's compartment. They finally somehow either we backed up or something happened, but we got that guy who was throwing the shovel up. We depressed the 30 enough to hit him and knocked him plumb back about 10 feet. And every time we hit him, his body would move, and somebody would say, "He's still moving. Hit him again." You know, we moved out of there. We moved up to, they called it the Trace, the McNamara line, whatever, the big. I was just got across it, almost went into a B-52 bomb hole. I remember some ammo boxes slid off the fender into the hole. It was like that, and just straightened up and went over. And I remember hitting a mine. I hit a mine over there, and I knocked off the first 2 set of road wheels. And I just happened to glance out of the right-hand driver's window and see a wheel hit the grunt. My road wheel went out and hit the grunt. Probably killed him. If it didn't kill him, it sure hurt him.
Sure.
You know, even though I had a flak jacket on. So we're sitting there. I'm stuck. I got no place to go. Nothing. I can't do a damn thing. I remember a redheaded guy we had who was due to go home. He come over and he tapped on my periscope, and I cracked the hatch. Said, "What do you want, Boyle?" Boyle. Got his name till just now. He said, "Looks like you got a flat, Pappy. I'll get the auto club." I said, "Okay," kind of relieved the tension there. You know, and the next thing I know, they had me hooked up and back, and they were towing me out. Now, during that same time span, There was another Sergeant Hamilton. We had two different times, one black guy, one white guy. Our own helicopters were coming in, they strafing us. And I remember Hamilton coming up on the air saying, if you fuckers strafe us again, I'm going to shoot back and one of you's coming down. You know, friendly fire type thing.
Right.
Anyway, they pulled us into an open area. Our track was blowing off. Road wheels gone. They pulled me in. I remember there was a grunt foxhole right next on the left side of the tank. And we undid it. We blew the torsion bar. I yelled, fire in the hole. And we blew the torsion bar out. And I walked around to the left side of the tank. And the grunt was standing up in his hole, and the torsion bar's right here in front of him. You know, another maybe 2 feet had hit him in the head. But we got the torsion bar out. And we could loosen things up. We short tracked the tank. I don't think you can do it with the M1s. I don't know. But we short tracked it.
They say you can. They say you can, but I've only known maybe one person that did it out of necessity. But yeah, it's something that that skill set fell apart.
Yeah, while we were there, a helicopter come in, and David Douglas Duncan got off the helicopter and came over to our tank. He didn't take any pictures or talk to us. He just come over and looked at us. And that Leroy, or that woman, that she died not too long ago. She was captured by the VC and everything else. Catherine Leroy, she was there with him. So we were stuck there for a while. We got mortared that night. You could hear the mortars going, you know, the hollow boom as they're launching them, and then the big bang as they hit. One of the guys got underneath the tank. How he got underneath there, I don't know, because we were damn near belly down. You know, the next day, Gunny Siva from Alpha Company came in and started to tow us out. In the process of being hooked up, our tank rammed his tank or vice versa and knocked off our drive sprocket. I mean, just sheared the drive sprocket off. He pulled us up and we got on the trace. The, you know, the McNamara line, the trace they call it. He's towing us along the trace and we would be going west. North Vietnam on the north side, we were on the south side. Our track was hooked up with a tow cable. We were towing the track. Sometime during the process, my escape hatch had been blowing off, so it was up on the fender. Bud Coyle and Jerry Wall, I believe, were up in the turret. I was in the driver's seat. Lieutenant Rivera had gotten on another tank, so we were without an actual TC. This grunt standing on our track, riding it like a big surfboard as we're being towed along. I'm taking a shit out of the driver's compartment, the escape hatch. He's watching my turds and toilet paper going by, and he's accusing me of being in a traveling outhouse. You know, we're having this banter back and forth. Yeah, you're just shitting in your traveling outhouse. It's just, you're riding my track like a surfboard. You're too damn lazy to walk, you know, and this kind of shit. Well, then they opened up on us. We caught hell from, would be my left, the north side. They opened up on us on the north side up there, and shit hit the fan. It went, the grunt disappeared. You know, I figured, okay, he's gone. And they're yelling at me in the turret to turn on the master switch and crank up the engine, which, I did so we can get full power.
Right.
They traversed manually first until I got that going, and they were putting out rounds. Bud Coyle and Jerry Wall, we're putting out some rounds, and they're yelling at me to get up in the turret, and I'm yelling, fuck you, you know, I'm not getting out there, you know, go ahead, we'll cover you, you know, we need somebody on the 50. So anyway, somehow I got out and got in the turret and took over as TC, and I got the 50 going. They're doing the 30 and the 90. I got the 50 going. You can only fire about 4 rounds out of that thing before it would jam. It laid on its side, fed from the left-hand side, and the link chutes was backed up. Not the brass, but the link chutes would back up after 4 or 5 rounds, and you'd have to monkey with it to get it going again. I had sky mounted one down at M1 and got in trouble for that. They said, you're not allowed to do that. You know, unauthorized modification. Well, Sorry about that. Too late. I did it. Uh, anyway, I got up and then I hear this banging on the side of the tank on the south side. And I
Mhm.
look out and there's that same grunt that was on the track banging on our water cans.
Mhm.
So I peeked my head out and yelled at him and said, "What do you need?" He's, "My buddy's got shot. I need water." I
Mhm.
said, "All the cans are empty. They've been shot up." And then I remembered down by the gunner, we kept a spare can,
Mhm.
which was about half full. So I told Bud, I said, "Hand me that can of water." He handed it up to me and I tossed it out to the grunt. And I'm looking up, we had those big ass, not periscopes, but vision blocks around the cupola.
Mhm.
They were about a foot thick,
Mhm.
and they were virtually bulletproof. And I'm looking out there at him, and this grunt's got this thing, and he's carrying the can, and he got maybe 15 feet from the tank, and he went up in a big cloud of pink puff.
Mhm.
I mean, a mortar round. There was no head or arms, but the can was still there with a hand attached to it,
Wow.
and from about the shoulder blades down was just him.
Hmm.
He took a direct hit from a mortar round, and
Yeah.
he got it. And we were still firing there for a while, and then Gunny Steve cranked up the tank. He towed us into Contien, around the backside of the hill by the airstrip.
Mhm.
They put us in there. Some from somewhere came a bulldozer and pushed dirt up on us and said, "You're now at a bunker on the backside of the hill."
Mhm.
Okay. So we stayed there until well, a couple of days, but it wasn't long. Later that afternoon, uh, here come tanks with a bunch of wounded on them. Well, it was our tank. Lieutenant Rivera was on it.
Mhm.
Catherine Leroy was on it. She got written up. She was interviewing a bunch of grunts when a mortar round landed right amongst a group of them.
Mhm.
And she was all messed up from knees to chest and everything.
Mhm.
Uh, they brought her into the LZ. We all went down there and we were holding ponchos over the wounded because it was hotter than hell.
Mhm.
It was hot. You know how hot, but over there we got the humidity with it. You just got the heat.
Right.
So we were holding ponchos over them until they got medevaced, and we went back to our tanks. Well, now we're out of water, and there's another tank they towed in too, Charlie Brown's tank. Charlie Brown was the guy that went up and down the ranks.
Mhm.
He'd been a master sergeant at one time, I think, or I heard anyway, but he was a lance corporal then at that time. We were out of water, and I looked over there, and there's a water buffalo, those big water towed 300-gallon tanks.
Mhm.
I said, we need water, don't we? So we had a can that didn't have holes in it, or if
Mhm.
they were up near the top. I said, I'm going to go get some water.
Mhm.
Who was it? A guy named Wallace, Bud Coyle, and myself on the tank, I think. I took my can and I went over there and got up to this water buffalo and got up near the spigot to get some water. And this lieutenant comes running out. He says, "That's our water. You can't have any." I said, "Lieutenant, we're out of water.
Mhm.
We've been out in the bush all day and I need some water for my crew. You can't have any." And I reached and I pulled out my pistol.
Hmm.
I didn't aim it at him, but I had it in my hand.
Right.
The staff sergeant came running up, jumped up on the buffalo, opened up the top and said, "Oh, we got enough, Lieutenant. You can give him some."
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." And I filled up my can, about half full.
Mhm.
And I went back, so we had water, but possibly saved me from court martial or something, or But I did have the
So far during this interview, I think that's number 5. I think that's 5.
I don't know, but I had my pistol in my hand. So I went back. We had water. I went over to see Charlie Brown because I knew him as a poker player, and we were sitting on his tank. My guys were over there on our tank. They were down inside. They weren't going to come out. And here comes the artillery. Bang, bang. They start hitting the hill, and me and Charlie Lucas said, "That's their artillery, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah." We were sitting there like nothing's going on.
Mhm.
And one of them landed just on the other side of that water buffalo. Probably put a lot of holes in it. I don't know. I didn't go
Mhm.
check. But anyway, we're sitting there, and here comes a piece of shrapnel, comes over and hits the tank, landed in Charlie Brown's pocket on his flak jacket, melted through the nylon pocket, fell on his leg and burned him. He goes to pick it up and he tossed it off his leg.
Mhm.
It was a good sized piece of shrapnel, maybe about 2 inches long.
Mhm.
You know, I said, "I think I'll go get in my tank." He said, "I think I'll get in mine too." So we sat there, I think for 2 days until a retriever came up to get us. The retriever, oh, Warren, he wound up, he was a staff sergeant then, Hatfield. I can't remember his first name, Hatfield. He was a staff sergeant then. He come up and got us. Uh, but what had happened was our radios were knocked out. We'd lost both antennas. I don't know what happened to the spare, but our antennas had been shot off. So I had to go use somebody else's radio to call battalion to let them know where we were and what was going on. And then a retriever came up for us the next day and towed us back to, almost said Amwa, but no, we're way up in Dong Ha. Dong Ha was our maintenance center up there. They towed us back to there, and we wound up getting new track, new wheels, all that kind of shit. You know, our track would get stretched. We would throw track quite a bit in the mud, in the jungles, and the ravines. And instead of breaking track to put it back on, we had a way of doing it. You loosen up all your track tension as much as possible. Just loosen it all up, and we keep a spare track block, and we throw it up between the track and the drive sprocket. And in that way, we walk it on. But each time you did this, you're stretching the track still.
Right.
You know, then we have to put the track tension back on it again. So our track was loose. You know, we could take a track block out and tighten it up, but it's still loose. But we wound up getting new track then. Let's see, what happened after that? We went out to the rock pile, I think. Oh, Sergeant Reed, our staff sergeant, on the first day of Hickory. After I saw him before we went out, and he told me he was a new platoon sergeant. Never saw him again. He had Bravo 1-5. Bravo 1-5 took an RPG through the right side, and from what I heard, took Reed's legs right off.
Wow.
His first day, or maybe second or third day, I don't know. First day with us, and 1-5, we didn't have run 1-5 for quite a while before that tank got replaced. We moved out to the rock pile area, and we had two positions out there, one called Payable and one called the rock pile itself. And our heavy section, 3 tanks, was at Payable. The light section, 2 tanks, was out at the rock pile. By then we'd gotten a new platoon leader too, Lieutenant Hines. I was out with the light section. Staff Sergeant Morton was a platoon sergeant then, because obviously Reed was gone. There were 2 tanks out there at the rock pile and a company of grunts on this one little hill. And then there was a Razorback in the rock pile. We set in out there and didn't do much out there. Not much we could do, you know, if we were out there just in case. The heavy section was escorting convoys out to Quezon area and being a big block there. That was battalion there. We were with, I think, 3-9 then. He's 3-9, maybe it's 26 Marines. I'm not positive at that time. I know they traded later on, and it was 2-9 it was there. But anyway, we were with the grunt company. We made friends with the grunts, yada, yada, yada. And then monsoon came. Oh, you talk about rain. You talk about rain. Well, being tankers, we don't build bunkers.
Right.
Right? Something happens, we get in the tanks. So we had like a walled-in, sandbagged bathtub with some 2x4s and boards thrown across and a tank tarp to keep the rain out. Well, we had rain watch. So somebody's supposed to be up at night poking the canvas where all the rain was coming in. Well, somebody fell asleep. The whole friggin' thing collapsed on us. Now we're in a big mud tub, you know, it's gone. So I don't know, the next day we're digging out, and I don't know who came up with the idea, but somehow Staff Sergeant Morton and myself told the lieutenant we were going on the mail run to Dong Ha. Or he told him, I don't know what Morton told the platoon leader. 2 of us took off to Dong Ha. We went to 7th Motors, where I happen to know the guy in charge, Staff Sergeant. Yeah, his name will come to me like a bolt of lightning. Told him, Al Slater, Al, we need a truck and a driver. For what? You know, I had a reputation at the time for being a scrounger and so on and so forth. Well, we just need a truck and a driver. He said, okay. He says, when are we going to get him back? I said, probably tomorrow. Okay. So we went over to Ninth Marines, and Wharton knew of somebody over there, a master sergeant. Anyway, he comes up and he gives me these here. He hands me these master sergeant chevrons. I said, okay. He says, Pappy, you just been promoted. Go get some wood. Okay. Now I got a truck driver, my master sergeant chevrons. We drive out the base at Dong Ha and we go down the road probably about 4 or 5 miles. There's a CB compound down there. I told the driver, go in there. And I said, before that, I asked him, you got any paperwork in here? He's probably some old trip tickets in the glove compartment. So I pull up a wad of paper, go up to the CB at the gate there. Says, yeah, we're here to pick up a load of plywood. Who's in charge here? He says, Captain so-and-so. I said, where's his office? He's down here to the right. I said, okay, where's the plywood dump? He's down there to the left. Okay, go ahead. I told the truck driver, go down to the left. And we go down there and we get down to the plywood dump and here comes this ensign. And this is a true story. I got witnesses. I know who was there with me. This ensign comes out and I'm off the top and I, morning, sir. I said, I got my working party here ready to load up. Captain so-and-so's processing the paperwork. We're here to get a load of plywood. He said, oh, okay, Top. He said, go help yourself. So, in the meantime, at Ninth Motor, besides the master sergeant chevrons, I picked up a working party of about 6 grunts. So we loaded about 2 pallets worth of plywood on the back of this truck. I mean, they did it manually, no forklift. We pull the truck drivers up the gate. Okay, here we go. We leave. Salute the sentry on there. Got it. Thank you. And we left, went back to Dong Ha, dropped the grunts off at Ninth Marines. I forget whether it was 1st or 2nd Battalion, Ninth Marines, but I know it was Ninth Marines. Picked up Wharton, told the truck driver, you know how to get to the rock pile? He said, yeah, but we can't go unless we get a convoy. So we had to form up near Dong Ha, wait till the convoy forms. Convoy was going out to Payable, which is the next stop. We get out there to rock pile, take a right over here and go up the bridge. So we went up the hill, got up there, and the grunt company commander comes running out and says, I don't need no truck on my hill. What are you doing with a truck up here on the hill? Well, sir, we got this plywood here to help you rebuild your bunkers. Oh, now things are okay. So anyway, the grunts got a lot of plywood to reinforce their bunkers. We built new bunkers. There's good pictures of it. Looked like knotty pine walled bunkers, nice roof, the whole ball of wax. We rebuilt the bunkers up there. But the truck had to stay the night on the hill. The captain was pissed about that. The next morning, he had to wait for a convoy going back. But he went back, and I never heard no more from him. Well, because it was a monsoon season, it wasn't long before the bridge washed out to that position. So we had to abandon it. And we drowned a tank, Bravo 1-4, drowned in the river trying to cross the river. Almost killed a grunt trying to swim the river when the rope tightened up on him. There's some good pictures of that in my book. You can see the bridge, but both ends of it are gone. It washed away the bank on both ends. We finally got out of there and went back to Payable. Before we went back to Payable, here's something that happened. We were out there at the rock pile position one day, and these rockets, we could see them taking off, going over the rock pile and landing over towards Payable. It was within less than a minute, we had both tanks out of the slot, were returning fire and getting secondary explosions.
Wow.
We got radio calls on that from everybody. Less than a minute. I think they fired 3 or 4 rockets off, and we started getting secondary explosions. Then the artillery came in, rock pile called them in and all that stuff. But we were first on the scene with that when we were up there. That was good shooting on our part, and probably totally by accident. The tanks don't get bore sighted that often. We tried to bore sight them once from Payable, and we were firing across a big ass canyon, probably close to 2,000 meters, something like that. And we thought we were shooting at a black spot on a big rock. Well,
Mhm.
we got secondary exposure. It was the mouth of a cave. We were just trying to bore sight the tanks, and it was an accident.
Wow.
They had to send the grunts out there to find out what the hell we hit. There was
Mm.
an ammo bunker out there, not ours.
Wow.
So let's see. And we moved to payable. Uh, Payable's where I made the, lack of a better word, moonshine. I had a 5-gallon water can.
Okay.
We comshod some yeast, raisins, sugar, all the makings for it from the 9th Marines mess hall,
Mm-hmm.
and stirred that shit up good. Made a batch of uh, moonshine in this 5-gallon water can. Let it sit out in the sun for, I don't know, maybe a week. And
Mm.
somebody noticed the can was starting to swell up. We figured we better open it.
Right.
And they called on me. I'm the moonshine wizard now. Damn near took my hand off the can when I went to open it, and it popped with all the pressure in it. We
Mm.
looked in there, and it was all foamy and bubbly and nasty looking and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Baker and I got a old coffee can, punched a bunch of holes in the bottom of it, packed it with battle dressings, strained the stuff threw that into a fresh can. When we looked in the can, all the baked on enamel from about the 4-gallon mark was gone. I mean, it was bare metal. This stuff had ate the baked on enamel. So now we had some moonshine, and I got an intravenous tube from the corpsman. I had it propped up above my rack in there. We were drinking it. We had to cut it with all the fruit juice we could find from the sea rations.
Mm.
Find anything from the sea rations to cut it with.
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking some straight out of the can through an intravenous tube. Good picture of that in my book too. We had a grunt. We were sitting around one night, and we all had our canteen cups of fruit cocktail, and some grunt lieutenant come over to. Heard you guys like to hear war stories. So he depended. We gave him about a third of a canteen cup.
Mm.
And he expanded on his war stories with us and everything else. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I got radio watch. I better go. So he left. Oh, probably about 15 minutes later, one of the guys had to go to the head. So he left. He came back in laughing like hell. He said, guys, got to see this. The lieutenant hit that fresh air and it hit him. And he was laying in the mud outside our bunker. Yeah, not face down, face up, but he was laying there. We just left him lay. When we were at the rock pile, or payable, we got back to Dong Ha, and I don't know how, but we wound up getting into the Air Force liquor locker.
Mm.
I can't remember how, but
Of
we
course,
had
the Air
all,
Force would have a liquor locker.
oh yeah, we had all these bottles with us of booze, and we had 8 or 9 broken ammo racks in the tank that we couldn't put ammo in.
Mm-hmm.
But a liquor bottle wrapped up in a towel would fit just perfect,
Mm-hmm.
except for those Seagram 7 bottles, which we had to hide behind the radios. So we go out. Our Army artillery pulled in a bunch of 175s out there and put them out in front of us.
Mm.
I think I got pictures of that too. We had all these liquor bottles in there. Had our cots beside the tent. Had the tent tarp out. We were going to spend a night out there.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody said, Pappy, go get us some booze. We'd gotten some grapefruit juice, big cans of grapefruit juice. We were going to make up, they said they wanted to make up some salty dogs without the salt because we didn't have that.
Right.
Pappy, go get some booze. So I'm looking for a bottle of gin. Well, I'm inside the tank, hand cranking this thing around, pulling out, oh, that's bourbon. No, put it back. Pull out another one. That's vodka. No, put it back. And but the third bottle I hit, I was looking for gin. I hear this voice up above me. Don't you carry any ammunition on this thing? I look up. I see this doggy looking at me. I said, no, we just throw the empties at him. And he, oh, I hear a little chirp out of him and he's gone. Well, I get out of the tank where I found a bottle of gin. There's a square bottle, but it fit. I get down to the guy, says, what the hell is going on? He says, that's a doggy from the artillery over here in front of us. They wanted us to range in on these hills for them because their rangers aren't, or rangefinders aren't set up yet, and tell them how far these hills were.
Mm.
He says he went away walking about crazy Marines supposed to be protecting him. He says, I think we're going to stand watch all night. You know, they were.
Right.
They asked me what happened. I told them what happened, you know, by throwing the empties at them. So, okay, well, let's make some salty dogs, you know, crack that grapefruit juice out. And we sat out there and having salty dogs with a metallic canteen tasted like a salty dog. So we were set. We were doing okay out there on that. Let's see what else happened with Payable. Payable was on the stop on towards Quezon. You had to go through Payable to get to Quezon, and there was another place out there. As far as I never got to Quezon. Went to I can't remember the name of it, but I knew, being how I was, I liked history. I liked studying tanks and stuff like that. We got out to this place, and I can't remember the name of it. I'd have to look it up. And the grunts out there asked us if we had any tanks out in that area. Well, we responded, no. We had no tanks. They said they swore they heard tanks last night or the night before. No, we had tanks at Quezon. Our 3rd platoon was at Quezon. 2nd platoon was at Camp Carroll. We were the 3rd platoon, or 1st platoon at the rock pile. Only tanks in the area. No, well, come on and look. And there was a river out near there. And we went down to the river, and I saw tank tracks. They looked a lot similar to our Amtrak tracks. But I said right now, I said, that's PT-76, Russian amphibious tanks. No, they don't have tanks here. I said, that's it. Well, I had a book showing all the different tanks and their tracks and stuff like that, but somebody stole it from me when I was on either RR or in the hospital. So I couldn't prove it. But later on, Lang Bay got overrun by PT-76 tanks out in that area. Lang Bay was right just farther west than Quezon. So I told them no. Another interesting thing happened out there. We were short a tank, so we had extra crewmen. I don't think we gotten 1-5 back yet from Hickory. So we'd rotate around. So I remember Kowloon was the name of that place. Kowloon was a little bend in the road towards Quezon. Shuppy was his turn to drive, or he wanted to drive on the next run. So he said they were going out to Kowloon. So we had extra 45 ammo because we used very little of it, you know, just a grease gun and our pistols. So I threw a couple of boxes of 45 ammo up on the fender. But here, give it to the grunts out there at Kowloon. So they took off. Well, they run into an ambush. Lieutenant Himes got hit. Charlie Carson was up in the turret with an M14, just fan firing, got hit in both hands.
Wow.
With they set off a claymore. Ours were, you know what their claymores are?
Yep.
They made round ones.
Okay.
They're the same thing. They had it up in a tree. They set it off. Lieutenant Himes got hit in the chest, and Charlie Carson both hands. Shuppy driving with his head out. We very seldom buttoned up unless we were under direct fire. Would have got hit. But those two cans of 50 or 45 ammo I threw up on the fender, took the pellets.
What's the chance of that?
No,
what is the chance of that?
I got one of the 45 slugs out of it with a hole in the side of it. And I polished it up and gave it to Shuppy a couple of years back. You know, 'cause I just got a Christmas letter, or rather from him, but you probably saved my life that time. Well, you know, could be. Never know. But anyway,
I got to tell you that this, I've done quite a number of interviews now, and this interview has been absolutely the most interesting.
Oh, I got a good one for you if you want it. We got a few more minutes.
I sure do.
Okay. We're running convoys out there. This was February the 9th, 67. We had just gotten a new platoon leader. I don't even remember his name. Well, I found out later what his name was, Fitzgerald, but at the time I didn't know his name. We were lead tank in the convoy. in the reaction force. That's right. A convoy had um, gone through the base, and they got ambushed. Stupid. They set up a secondary ambush for the relief force.
Okay.
Here we come. We're going through there, and we stopped. Somebody told us to stop. We had grunts with us. I could look down the road. I had the hatch down, but not closed. I could see down the road, and I could see grunts running across the road. Lieutenant was up there. He got on the radio to talk to or TI phone to talk to the grunts. Popped out of a spider hole right beside the tent, shot the lieutenant, went up underneath his flak jacket, through his chest and out the front.
Wow.
He fell down in the tank. What had happened before that? Something happened. Oh, a canister round broke in the tube. Greg Martin was the acting motor that day, and he's getting ready to load a canister into the tube. When the canisters, after a while, from vibration, they'll shake loose. And this one broke in the tube. Well, if he'd have run it in all the way real quick, he might have got it.
Right.
But instead, he tried to pull it out. Well, when he did, all the pellets fell out. So now we were lead tank. We backed off the road. This is Highway 9, road to Quezon, backed off the road down into a ditch. Lieutenant told me, he says, Pappy, stay on the radios. We'll take care of the gun tube. They broke out the ramming staff, and they turned the traverse the turret around and dropped the tube, and they're punching the tube. I'm monitoring the radios. Okay, we get that done. I told them to bounce it, try to bounce it, because sometimes you take the tube and you elevate it all the way and jerk it, bounce it. Sometimes you can shake to get the pellets up, but that didn't work. So anyway, they punched the tube. A duster had gotten up on the road in front of us and taken our place. We come up, we went around the duster. Now we're lead tank again. And that's when the lieutenant got hot. We no sooner pulled in front of the duster and up and shot the lieutenant. And I remember clearly because I felt it and I saw it. I had my head up out of the turret, out of the driver's compartment, and an RPG went right across in front of it. I probably could have reached out and touched it.
Wow.
You know, I could feel it. And it just went between me and the gun tube, you know, like this. It went across and hit the brush on the other side. Now, we were out there for I don't know how long out there, and we were firing. But when the lieutenant got hit, we told everybody on the radio, you know, lieutenant's down. We got to get him up. Greg Martin shoved the cellophane off of his, he told me it was off a battle dressing, I think he said, the plastic into the sucking chest wound that he had. So Greg saved him. We got the tank turned around during the process of doing a Y turn on the tank. John Makovich got up. He was the gunner. He took over as TC. The grunt, the NVA that shot the lieutenant, a corpsman went over and shot him in his hole with his pistol. Got the tank turned around, and here's a truck, a 6x out there, and it had all these grunts on it, all wounded. It turned out it was our truck from Bravo Company's third tanks with the pay officer on it. He come out to pay us, and he wanted to see a little excitement. He got more than he bargained for, because they shredded the wooden sides of the. Truck pulled off the road. Why, I don't know. All the grunts got on the tank. Wounded grunts are on the tank. And we're driving. We're going to go back into Payable. And I remember driving down that road to Payable, and the road was probably maybe 6 inches wider than the tank. And I remember a grunt. My driver's hatch was open and over to the side, and a wounded grunt was sitting on it, and I was holding him by the leg and driving one hand, and he'd bleeding down my arm. And I told him, hang on. We were going down that road. Here, a group of grunts coming on either side towards us. They moved out of the way. We went down that road. I'll tell you about that road in a minute. We got back to Payable. They had a wooden bridge going across the stream at Payable, which tanks weren't allowed to go on. It wasn't rated for 52 tons. So we had to use a bypass, which is another good story too. Anyway, I hit that bridge. I said, I'm not hitting this bypass. I'd knock half these grunts off into the stream. So I was going to cross, and I could look up at battalion headquarters, and I could see a couple of the officers going like this when I hit that bridge. And I just went straight across. So I lined up on it. I pulled up into their headquarters up there, and we got the wounded off. They got the lieutenant out. The inside stunk like hell because all of the blood from the lieutenant in there. I got out. I got sick. I couldn't go back in there. Somebody else cleaned it. While I was there, a 6-by came in. I don't know if it was the same 6-by or not. It came in and backed up by the tent, and the blood just ran out of the back of it. I mean, it was just chock full of wounded grunts. And I don't know. We went back out later on, but that road, tank was about 11 feet wide, something like that, some odd inches, and there was only a few inches on either side. We were coming down there one day and coming back into our area, almost towards that same bridge. We were heading the bridge and the bypass right beside each other. We had a bunker up there. We saw this big Bengal tiger come out of the woods on one side, go across the road real slow. He wasn't running, he wasn't walking, but when his head hit this side, the tail was still on this side. So he was stretched out. I call it a lope.
Wow.
He was stretched out about 11 feet, and I'm yelling, "Shoot him! Shoot him! Shoot him!" With the coax, and they said they can't because if we don't hit him, there's a bunker right there. It's our friendly people. We couldn't hit him. So that was my first tiger story. Second tiger story, at the same place, payable. I'm on dog watch one night in the tank. At night, we pull a tank up on the road by the bridge, and if anything come by the bridge or the overpass or up the overpass, it was fair game unless they identified themselves. So I'm up in the turret. I was either in the turret, either the loader's hatch or the TC hatch, I don't remember. And I hear all this noise down there in the river. Don't shoot him, don't shoot him. Hit him, help me, help me, help me. All this screaming's going on. What the hell's going on, And pretty soon there was a shot fired. The guys had the M16s by then, which is a horrible weapon. I hate that weapon. Too many people got killed with their cleaning rod stuck in it. Group of grunts come walking by the tank. I said, "What the hell was all that noise about?" So the tiger tried to drag off the last man in the patrol. I said, "Yeah, right." Like I don't believe him, bullshit. And they're kind of half carrying this one guy. It turned out to be true. They medevaced him the next day, it was all sewed up. And there was another incident that I read about on that same road about a tiger dragging a gun, getting a grunt out there. So that's my two tiger stories. But that's only saw one, but heard about two others. So that was quite a place, a lot of fun place. That's where we, so down by the stream, the bypass. The grunt battalion had built a shower down there for the grunts, except for the grunt CO. Well, we had our own shower. Our tank platoon, we had gotten some 55-gallon drums. We got some stuff from the CBs. We built a shower stall. There's pictures of that on the book. We built a shower stall. You can go out, and you had to go out and turn on. We got an immersion burner from some poor mess hall that missed it. And you could go out and heat up your water, wait about 5-10 minutes, go out and you could take a hot shower. We have a pull string on it. Well, somebody, probably officers, because the enlisted people don't do this kind of shit. The grunts had their shower down in the stream bed. Somebody had built the battalion commander and I assume staff a shower stall, because he had asked us for where we got our stuff, and we got him some stuff too. The grunts took offense to this. We don't know who, we don't know when, but the battalion commander went out one evening to take a shower. Everything was okay until he went back in his hooch, turned on a light and looked in the mirror. He was kind of a greenish color. They had packed grape Kool-Aid in the shower stall for him. And he came out of there looking like a Smurf. within a couple of days, the grunts shower down in the stream bed had hot water because he had hot water. We had
Right.
hot water. Grunts had cold water in their shower.
Yep.
But after the Smurf thing, they got yeah, we don't know who did it. Probably
Right.
one of the grunts, some grunt.
Right.
Back at Payable, we had these big 4-holers. Or 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4-holers.
Mm.
And we probably did the same as you. Half a 55-gallon drum underneath, full of diesel fuel and gasoline and stuff. I'm in there one day, and I'm still a Lance Corporal. I don't remember ever making corporal, but I've got a corporal's warrant. But I don't remember ever getting promoted. I'm in there one day reading Stars and Stripes, and this grunt from the 9th Marines happens to come in. We're all using the same shitter. He comes in. Good morning, Top. Who are you talking to? You. Don't you remember me? I says, no. He said, I was on that working party with you to get the plywood from the Seabees. I said, oh, yes. Now I seem to remember you. And I'm just, I didn't have any chevrons on. I'm just a private today, but I'm with CID. And if you ever talk about that incident, you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. And I did my thing, wiped my ass and walked out, and he's still sitting there with his face hanging out. I hope he lived to tell that story. He'd be one of my witnesses. Okay, I don't know what else we need.
I think you covered it.
I don't have too many war stories because I wasn't in war. I never got wounded. I did get almost killed by a tree. We're going out in the bush someplace. We're coming back. For some stupid reason, we're tracking the same track backwards. And that's because if we don't, we might hit a mine. But the trouble is, the first time through, we knocked all the brush down that way. Now we're going against the grain. So we're coming down, and here's this tree in front of me. I said, I'm hoping we can miss it. Well, the tree went up, and a fork of the tree caught the gun tube.
Wow.
Okay, now everything's muddy inside the tank, and I happen to go just a little bit too far. That tree trunk twisted, and the stub fork come down and hit me right in the nose. Now I'm pinned in the driver's car, the back of my neck against the back of the hatch, tree up against me, my foot's on the muddy brakes, and I'm hauling, help, help. I couldn't even reach the gear shift. Somebody get down here and back me out of here. I still got a scar right there. If I'd have gone another couple of inches, it would have got me right between the horns. But one of the guys crawled down and put the thing in the reverse because I couldn't reach it. I was pinned in there. When you put it in reverse, I backed up a few feet. They wanted to give me a Purple Heart for it. The corpsman, I said, no.
That would have been a hell of a way to die.
Yeah, would have been a hell of a way to die, but I didn't want a Purple Heart for it either. Okay.
I really do appreciate these stories. Like I said, these have been the most entertaining and just incredible stories, and just a perspective of the war that I have not heard before. I thank you. You've defined Libo Risk. We now know what a true Libo Risk is.
Yeah.
I will tell you that Libo Risks in the 50s and 60s and 70s is certainly different than Libo Risks in the 2000s for sure. But this year has been tough on all of us. And with the divestment, and it's no different. Like, I've said this quite a few times. It's no different for us that are wearing the uniform, or you gentlemen that wore it before us and paved the way for us. You've remained active. You've remained active since your time in the Corps. You're a proud member of the USMC Tankers Association and the Vietnam Tankers Association, likewise. And you've even served as a local commandant for your Marine Corps detachment.
Yeah, I was ran a young Marine unit for about 30 years too.
That's incredible.
I don't know if you know about the young Marines or not.
Yes, sir, I do.
Kids from 8 to 18, and had one killed. The last man killed 2005, New Year's Eve, was one of my former young Marines.
Wow.
Yeah.
May he rest.
So I did that for a long time. I enjoyed the hell out of working with those kids. So it was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
And I remained active. I'm still a webmaster for the Tankers Historical Association or Foundation.
Mm.
And I run a now monthly. Well, it used to be weekly newsletter, but now we do it monthly. Starting the first of the year, went to monthly.
Okay.
So I'm working on one now. So I still do that. I still stay busy. I build models in my spare time.
Active and you know, absolutely, it's been an honor. It's been an honor having you on the channel. I want to send out a special thank you to the subscribers. Our subscriber account continues to grow, and that's really where the channel gains momentum, and more folks get to hear these wonderful stories. And really the
Yes,
honor is bestowed upon you guys that need you know, to be recognized for everything you've done in the past.
it's a
And
damn shame Marines are getting rid of their tanks. I think it's a very bad idea.
yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. I've kept the channel from expressing opinion on that. It's really not the message that we're
Not,
trying to get out. But
yeah.
yeah, I'll leave it by saying that it was a very tough year. So thank you to the subscribers. If you haven't done already, so please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. And sir, like I said before, it's been an absolute honor having you on here. And party comments are yours.
Okay, I really don't have anything other than Semper Fi. I enjoyed all my time in the Marine Corps. Well, I can't say all of it. You know, it's no fun getting locked up for a weekend. You know, they call it safekeeping.
Right.
That's what they called it. You're too drunk to be on duty. You're going to the brig for a weekend. Field day of showers and floors. Other than that, you know, I enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.
Still do. Still do. I still stay affiliated wherever I can.
That's awesome, sir. Semper Fi to you, Pappy, and it's been a real honor.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been an honor doing this.